Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Buyouts Business and Bourbon. Today, special guest, not your typical business guy, not your M&A lawyer. We have an all-pro NFL ball player from the Indianapolis Colts, Zaire Franklin, middle linebacker. We have a lot to talk about, some business related, some not so business related. Zaire's done a lot of broadcast, a lot of podcasts. I know this is a business serious one. This is less serious than the ones you're used to. I'll talk to you a little bit about your podcasts, but I want to first, we'll talk about your businesses, your rental properties. I know you have a Rita's franchise. Talk a little bit about your foundation, your charity. Zaire goes by Z, so we will talk to him as Z. So Z set the NFL tackle record in 2024, came in second in 2023 in the NFL. And he's ranked fourth in 2022. Zaire's known for his tackles. So you're also coming up with the leader in Colts history, correct? For tackles?
Yes, sir. Walking it down sooner or later.
Great. Awesome. All pro last year. So we're going to talk today about all that. Let's take us through your journey, though, from growing up in Philly to making it to SU for football. Youngest captain in SU history, is that correct?
Yes, sir. One of
And
the
then
youngest,
making
yes,
it
sir.
making it into were the 6th or 7th round in the NFL draft?
Seventh round, yes, sir.
There
Yes,
you go. So
sir.
tell us about that journey. They don't hear from me. So
Yeah, I mean, grew up in North Philly. Was an only child to my mother. Was raised by my mother, my grandmother, and my great grandmother. So three generations of women. Um, I still wouldn't call myself a woman expert, but who really is.
it's true.
Yeah, but just grew up, surrounded by love and, modest means. When I was in high school, went to a very prestigious high school, transferred to prestigious high school when I was in 10th grade. LaSalle College High School, private school, all boys
Was that
school.
for football?
Um, yes and no. I would tell you, at the time my grandmother really wanted me to transfer because at the time I had to catch two buses and a train every day to go to school. And I had been doing that since I was in 5th grade. So she really wanted me to go somewhere where I could be picked up and dropped off every day and, somewhere where I wasn't traveling halfway across the city just to go to school. And then, any extracurricular activities I did required another long trek at late at night in the city with just a lot of opportunity to get in trouble. So that would probably say the main thing for me. Football was on the table, um, but everybody was telling me I would never play there. Everybody was like, "Oh, like you'll never play for those guys. Those guys compete for state championships. You'll never be able to play on that team. You'll just be on JV your whole career." So I was like, "Okay."
That gave you the motivation, though, right?
I don't. What's so funny? I didn't know whether it was true or not. But in my mind, I just believe. You know, I would rather take the risk and fail than to, turn away from an opportunity or a challenge and never know. I could if I go and I never achieved and I never played, then I could live with that. But if I don't go because I'm afraid of what may or may not happen, then I wouldn't be able to live with that. So at the end of the day, I was just looking forward to a challenge.
It worked out. So how did you end up on that team?
Uh, I mean, I end up transferring in right before my sophomore year. And right in the middle of training camp, I think I showed up maybe, a week or so into training camp. And I mean, it didn't take long for me to feel like I fit in. It was me and a couple other guys that transferred in as well. And, I was ready to go. I was playing, I was competing, I was having fun. I appreciated the structure. I appreciated, my head coach at the time, Drew Gorton. God rest his soul. He passed away a couple years ago. He's one of the best high school football players in Pennsylvania state history. one of the all-time winningest coaches in Pennsylvania State history. So I just appreciated the program and the structure. They were ran a lot like Indianapolis, like with Dungy, like a lot of like, the Colt, like the Patriots with Belichick. It was very structure, was a way of everything we had to do things from what we wore to the weight room to how we had to be on practice field early to how our practices were structured. It was very cerebral, and everything we did had a reason. I appreciated the structure, so I fit in good. And I think I ended up playing maybe like I played varsity from week one. But I think I might have played. I don't know, I might have played like 1 or 2 games on JV, but I was just on JV literally doing whatever I wanted. And then, I was actually going to start. So we were a state title contender, and
Okay.
I had nothing but seniors ahead of me, and these guys have been playing together for a long time. So it was actually kinda a little bit
How'd
of
you assimilate in that quickly?
so it was some guys from my neighborhood, um, that I knew, that was on the team. And I would really just say like LaSalle is why it's so special to me. LaSalle is very, the culture of LaSalle, everybody, you know, you get respect based off of who you are, not what you do, So there's so many people achieving great things in that school that you being a D1 football player is just a conversation piece. We had at the time the number one lacrosse team in the country. We had the number 1, 3, 13, 20 ranked players in the country and at our school. Everybody played multiple sports. Everybody was great at multiple sports. The best player on our team was a lacrosse player. He was the 13th ranked player in the country in lacrosse. He had a full ride, which is rare. He had a full ride to Harvard to be a lacrosse player.
Mm,
And if he wouldn't have broke his ankle in his last high school game, he would have went down as the all-time leading receiver in Philadelphia history in high school sports, breaking Marvin Harrison's record.
really?
Yeah, he was about 10 yards away. He just broke his ankle in the first quarter of a playoff game, which was tragic. But yeah, so everybody was great. I mean, I had kids who were sophomores in my school earning 70,000 a year working for Microsoft. It was just like that type of stuff going on in that school. Like everybody was special. So you really got over on being a good person rather than,
So it's both
what you did
academic and
extracurricularly.
sports, that school.
Yes. I mean, even the band. I mean, the band was fire. I mean, everybody did everything. So it was just wasn't those, it's one of those places where it's not very clicky,
Right.
everybody just gets along. There's not a lot of ego in there. It's why it's such a special place for me.
So you did pretty well. Then you're going to college. So obviously you want to play football in college because you played well enough. So what schools did you look at? You end up at Syracuse, but did you look at a couple other ones seriously before deciding on Syracuse?
Well, so that's what I was gonna say. So I was my sophomore year, I was playing, I was about to start. The game I was about to start, I broke my leg on the opening kickoff. So then I ended up missing my whole sophomore year, couldn't do the whole recruiting thing going into my junior year. So my junior year was my first year I started, and, I think I ended up going all state, I think, or something like that. I wasn't first team though, but, ended up doing pretty well, earned my first offer from Villanova at the end of my junior year, and then Temple, then Pitt, and then just kinda picked up and went off from there. I had a bunch of offers, a lot from mid majors. I had pretty much almost every mid major and below. I had a good amount of like the Power Five schools at the time. For me personally, I knew I wasn't really going to go anywhere crazy. Even though the one school I did consider going to was Arizona. Um, I did consider going there. I had plans on going to taking a visit. Um, but I really wanted to stay somewhere close. My mom was sick. Um, and I wanted to be somewhere close to
Yeah.
yeah, to my family. If it just but not too close that they will pull up. So, like, Temple was off the cards, but,
What about Penn
Syracuse
State?
ended up being perfect.
No Penn State?
Penn State was my dream school at the time. I loved Penn State. I always wanted to go. I was a linebacker. I always loved, Penn State, and, but when I was getting recruited, they were going through sanctions, and, they tell you not to meet your heroes. I just felt like they were assholes, respectfully. I just thought they had a real entitlement to who they was and what they thought they were about. They kind of talked down on a lot of other schools, and I just it just really rubbed me the wrong way. The guy who was recruiting me actually was a alum of my high school. He coaches in the NFL now. He was the defensive coordinator, and he just kind of, I don't know, they just had this assumption because they felt like they were Penn State because the D coordinator went to my high school. They just felt like they had just the right for me, and I don't respond well to that. Bill O'Brien came to my school. My whole school stopped when he
Really?
came to he came to my campus. And I have my school is extremely academic, and he came and we walked outside of the office, and my entire school was in that hallway to look at him. So,
Wow.
shout
Yeah,
out Bill
he's a big
O'Brien.
deal. Yeah. So you
Yeah.
end up at Syracuse with our friend Dino Babers as your coach, correct?
Mhm.
Then you, you were
Well,
the
no,
youngest captain? Well, now why even
Scott Schaefer was the one who recruited me. So I played with Scott Schaefer for 2 years, and then Dino got
then
hired
Dino
after my
came.
sophomore year. Yep.
So how'd you get, named, captain so early and young in the career?
So my freshman year at Syracuse, kind of similar story, but I ended up starting my last 4 or 5 games of the season, and I'm doing really well. Um, and just kind of going into off-season workouts, my head coach at the time, Scott Schaefer, he called me into his office and he sat me down. He said, "Hey, listen, I think you got an opportunity to be like the leader of this whole team." And I was like, "Well, I'm a sophomore, and coming from my high school, I just understood like the hierarchy of, a senior and just respecting that." And he was like, "Yeah, but I think, just who you are and how people gravitate towards you, I think you got a chance to truly be a special leader." And, me and him just was talking and building and working towards that. And then, just based off of, who I am and how I carry myself in the off season and in the locker room, I was able to earn that. And I was voted a captain as a sophomore, which was extremely rare at the time. I think it was like the first time since like the 1800s or something crazy like that.
Wow,
Um,
that's awesome.
yeah, so it was pretty cool.
And then Dino comes in, you new coach, junior year. How'd that all work out?
Yeah, well, Dino will tell you when he pulled up. Um, I'll tell him he inherited my team. You know what I mean? When he pulled up, everybody was telling Dino, "Yeah, you got to go talk to Zaire," and he was like, "Well, who the hell is Zaire?" So, but me and Dino obviously had a great relationship. Always appreciated who he was and what he was about, and he was serious about trying to get our program together, and I always appreciated him for that. So, yeah, me and Dino had a great relationship, and we had some highs and lows, but overall, it was a good time.
So you end up graduating well, actually, most importantly too, you should mention that you met your wife freshman year at Syracuse.
I met her freshman year, first day.
That's pretty amazing.
I know I'm a sucker.
Yeah. 2 kids later, all good.
Yeah, 2
Um,
kids, a lot of rings. Yes, sir.
yep. So then you graduate Syracuse and you feel like somebody must have told you you're gonna get drafted in the NFL or you have a shot. So you wanted to take your shot. So what was your thinking kind of because I know you're a smart guy, you're a business guy. You could have made a career in probably Wall Street or done something else other than football, correct?
Yeah.
But what made you think that you could really make it, especially 6th or 7th round? I don't know the probability of, like, getting to your level after being a 6th or 7th round. Everybody knows Tom Brady also was a 7th round pick, but what was
Yeah.
going through your head kind of as you were kinda ending your Syracuse career thinking what you're gonna do next?
Yeah, so I mean, I would probably say, probably around my junior year, once I had made all ACC, I really tell them it was probably against Notre Dame. We were playing Notre Dame, and my now teammate, Quentin Nelson, was on that team. They
Mhm.
had Mike McGlinchey, who was from Philly, who was on that team. Both of those guys were top 10 draft picks, and I think they had a couple other guys on that line too. At the time, Zach Martin might have been on that team, but at the time, my coaches was pretty much telling me like, "Look, this is an NFL offensive line. Like, if you can play well against this team, you'll probably be able to play in the NFL." And I think in the first half, I had like 9 tackles, a sack, and a pick. And I was just like, at that point, and it was in the NFL stadium, it was in Giant Stadium, we played them in MetLife. And at that point, I just kind of felt to myself like, I think I probably can play in the NFL, if I'm playing with these guys. But up until then, I mean, I was majoring in finance and marketing. I was a double major in a business school. Up until then, I was working on my resume. My wife she majored in IT. We were go back and forth about going to these job fairs, and I remember after our junior year, she got this huge internship at Morgan Stanley. And then she kind of looked at me like, "Are you going to get an internship?" And I'm like, I don't know. I might go to the NFL, so I don't want to waste the summer in New York. But
But she was
with
she was
all
game. She supported you on that though, right?
yeah, she did. She did. She did. I actually got to give her crap about it now because now I remember how she kind of looked at me sideways when I stopped updating my resume. But yeah, I knew coming after my senior year it'd probably be an uphill battle. Not because of who I was, but because of, we didn't have a lot of success as a team. But I don't know, like again, I was with the challenge, at the end of the day. If I wasn't NFL material, I knew I had enough connections and enough social capital to try to figure something out in the workspace. I knew I was capable and I would love and thrive in the New York City work environment. Me and
Yep.
Candace, she had a job in New York City, so I knew I would have figured something out with that. And I knew we would have had a great life, but at the same time, I had to see if, I had to chase that dream. I had to make sure that that was something that I was able to do. And I just had to go make the most of it.
Right, because you can always go back to business and you still might someday, but you wanna give this the try, right? So do you
Yeah.
think was 7th round kinda where you expected?
I mean, I was appreciated to get drafted. I thought I was gonna go undrafted, honestly. I remember draft day and I remember watching the entire draft. To this day, it's the only time I've ever watched the entire draft. I remember sitting there and watching everybody get picked. And it was at that towards the end, and I was feeling like I wasn't gonna get drafted. I had a call from Tom Coughlin,
Mhm.
who was the GM of the
Yep.
Jaguars at the time, and he pretty much called Jaguars was the only team that I actually had a meeting with, uh, before the draft, and,
Coughlin used to coach Syracuse too.
yeah, I know, he's a Syracuse
Yep.
guy, so he calls me, and he's like, "Listen, pretty much, I know you're gonna go undrafted, but pretty much blank check, like, whatever you need, we want you, in Jacksonville." And, I was going to Jacksonville, and on the other line, the Colts end up, drafting me, so I would have went to a division rival, just like that. So I always think about that. Like I could have been a Jaguar, which would have been interesting saga in my life. But um, yeah, I was that close. But I would just appreciate it to get drafted. Just it's an honor, no matter how late it is. It's an honor to get drafted. To hear your name called. Thankfully, mine was actually while they were on TV. I was glad that I didn't get drafted while they were on commercial break, and my name didn't just come underneath some Wendy's commercial. Like I was appreciative of that. So yeah, it's an honor.
But that's the only time you watched the whole draft that year.
Yeah, I would never watch the draft ever again.
I have a brother-in-law that watches the draft every year from start to finish. I'm not sure how, but he does.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you get to a certain point in the draft where, you really just throwing darts at the wall, I mean, I would be lying if I thought I think they would be lying if they thought they would have got out of me what they did get out of me at this point in my career. Just
Yeah.
the other day, my GM, who drafted me, he told me, he said, "Yeah, Zaire, this is the guy I always thought you would be." And I'm like, I don't know if you ever thought I was going to be all this, but I appreciate him saying that, though. That's my guy. So shout out to Chris.
So you get to the Colts, you get the NFL, and you're the new guy. And I know I wanna talk to you a little bit about motivating the young guys now, but you're the young guy then. Like, how
Mhm.
does that how do you kinda assimilate into, like, with all those stars on the team and, guys that have been there for a while, you have to prove yourself. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
you
I'm the youngest. I'm the youngest in my family, so I'm the only child to my mom, but I grew up with a bunch of cousins, and I'm the youngest of that whole group of 5. So I understand how to be seen, not heard. I'm not really the flashiest type, and like I tell you, I really enjoy proving myself. I'd rather I knew I need to let my play talk first before they hear me speak, and I was actually when I got drafted, so they drafted 11 people before me. The Colts did. The Colts drafted 11 people. I was the 11th person that they drafted. They
Oh,
drafted
they
10
had
guys that day.
multiple picks in different
Yeah,
rounds, yeah.
they drafted 11 guys that day. I was the 11th guy that they drafted. They traded back in the draft to pick me, and I was the only draft pick that didn't pick my number. They didn't let me pick my number. All other they even let some undrafted guys pick their number. I didn't pick my number. I didn't know what number I gave me, number 97.
Then why didn't they let you pick?
I don't think they thought I was gonna make the team.
Ah, gotcha.
So they gave me number 97. So I took that as just like extremely disrespect. Like that was just like the most motivational thing I could do.
Yeah.
But the beauty of it was, because I was number 97, your number puts you with certain people in the locker room. So I ended up being with a bunch of the old head D linemen, a bunch of the 8, 10, 12-year vets. That's where my locker was. I wasn't with my buddies who I actually was in the room with, and we were all young. We were all first, second, third year. I was actually my locker was with all the 8, 9, 10-year vets. And just the amount of game that I got from them, I mean, about not only about how to play, but taking care of your body, taking care of your finances, talking about how to deal with your wife, who I didn't have at the time. Like it was just so many things and lessons that they gave me then that I still live by today. And honestly, I
Wow.
felt like it was a blessing. But
So
once I made the team, I made sure.
getting
Yeah.
97 worked for you because you were with those guys.
Yeah, I almost
Uh,
kept it, but once I made the team, I switched my number to 44. I had to. I had to go to 44.
so they didn't tease you or play pranks on you being the little kid in the locker room?
I don't think anybody teases me. I don't live like that. But I feel like when you the young guy, like they like, even now, like you don't tease the young guy who's a good sport about it. You only want to get after the guy who consistently fights pressure. So, if they needed me to go grab something to go pick up something, I was cool with it. They needed me to go get lunch for the plane. I took pride in it. Like take pride in that. Like they needed me to go get some liquor for the guys. Like I would take pride in that and be like, look, because what I end up learning was, and I try to tell the young guys now, so when you travel in the NFL, especially when you go to the road games, rookies get get the food. And it really is, I mean, the menu is based off of the oldest vet in the room and really just kind of how everybody carry it. So, like for example, when we travel now, every road game, I need 2 Popeye sandwiches with the side of fries and an apple pie. Like that's what I need. So I need that, and you need to get everybody a sandwich, spicy chicken
One
sandwich.
piece of apple pie or multiple?
Just one apple pie. Well, I mean, we are playing in the game the next day. I can't just be eating all that. But what it is though, what I realized was when I was getting that stuff, it's an opportunity to build and serve your teammates. You know what I mean? So I tell guys like, even to this day, I get 2 chicken sandwiches. I never eat both of them. I always give a chicken sandwich to one of my D linemen because to me, that's just a chance of me to show them that I appreciated them. What I learned was when I was had to go get Chick-fil-A for the plane for the linebackers. If it's only 8 linebackers, I'm gonna go get 15 chicken sandwiches because it's gonna be a defensive back that didn't get a sandwich that might want one. I'm gonna go give 2 to the coaches, you know what I mean, to our linebacker coach, so they cool, like, and or a D lineman or a receiver, and it's just it's an opportunity to build a relationship with somebody because you never know, where that might come in the back end. That you don't never know when you might need a hand to extend or a word of advice or a word of encouragement. So you just serving your teammates like that, like it always comes back tenfold. So I tell the young guys even today, like, yeah, it's only 8 of us in the room, but go buy 15 chicken sandwiches because it don't matter. Just go buy them and then give them out. You give it to somebody in the media, whoever you want, but it's just a way to serve your teammates. The only rookies that get picked on is the ones that don't want to serve.
Do the rookies listen to you? I'm hopeful they do.
Yeah, they don't have no choice.
They have no
They
choice.
don't yeah, that's
So
not a
so getting back
not
to
an
that,
option.
like, so you're the captain of the defense, correct?
Yes.
So they should be looking up to you, especially the young guys that, you know I'm a Jets fan, I'm a Sauce Gardner fan. I know
Shout out to Sauce. Shout
you
out to
guys have
Sauce.
you guys have Sauce now. He's still a young guy, right? He's probably 23, 24.
Yeah, he's a young
Um,
dude, he is. He like
so, like,
24.
So when you're in charge of the defense and you gotta motivate these guys for 3 hours every Sunday during football season, like, how do you motivate them to play at their peak performance for those 3 hours? And, what do
Um,
you say to them? What do you do with them? What do you do out in the field? Like, what's that like? Because I think we're in the business of, like, helping these companies exit and bring in leadership, and how do you teach new leaders? Like, can you tell some of the guys that are gonna be the future leaders? Because look, I we know you're on the older side now, which is hard to believe. You're not even 30
yeah,
yet,
don't
but
say
you
that
you're
twice,
getting
but
up
yeah,
there.
nah, for sure.
But what do you
Um,
do with these guys? How do you kinda teach them, motivate them, and get them to listen and all that?
yeah, so what I would say is, what I had to learn, and um, I learned a lot about leadership mainly through my time at Syracuse because I felt like even though I was the youngest captain ever and stuff, I think there was a lot of opportunities that I had to be a better leader. Like I learned how to be a good leader at Syracuse. I don't know if I was the best leader at Syracuse, but it put me in a better position for when I became a captain my third year, I believe. I think it was my third year with the Colts. And I would say the first part is being a servant leader. I think that is the most important part of it. You know, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day is, you know, people there's a sector or a section of people who are going to follow you just because technically you are in charge. You know, technically because I am the captain, there is probably maybe 40% of people that are just going to listen because they listen to who is in charge. Same way with the head coach. The head coach has a natural sway or influence, or the CEO. The head coach is just the CEO of the team. So
Yep.
the people who will just follow because you are in charge and you make the decisions and you decide who comes and goes. So people will follow you just based off of that. I think the best leaders are the ones who invest personally in each one of their constituents and their followers. I think that's why even though it is an NFLPA issue and we probably gonna have to revamp it, that's why I believe so much in the off seasons, why I believe so much in OTAs is because I don't look at OTAs as a football exercise. I look at it as an opportunity to grow and build as a team. Every great team that wins a championship, yes, they have overarching great talent. When you get to professional sports, everybody's talented. When you get to a certain level of business, everybody has a good product and great teammates, great managers who've done this or been to this school. Everybody has talent. What separates people are the relationships within that building and people going above and beyond for each other and with each other. And, so I spend most of the spring learning every person on my team. So, I went when I was voted a captain in my third year, I was a captain of special teams. Special teams makes up the belly of the team. Special teams is about
Yeah.
60% of the roster is only in the building because of special teams. And the reason why I loved it because special teams, you could be a receiver, you could be a running back, you could be a corner, you could be a D lineman, you could be a O lineman. A lot of people it's transpositional. But it gave me an opportunity to learn and build and understand, the different things that they have going on, learn their personality, learn where they from, learn what school they went to, what they're about, what's important to them. Are they married? Do they have kids? What motivates them? Are they motivated by money? Are they motivated by fame, by status, by greatness? Are they motivated by the team? Do they want to play for you or do they want to play for the coach?
Well, that
Just
stuff's not
really
written
getting to
on the
understand that
internet. You
stuff.
gotta spend time with them though, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
can't. I
Yeah,
mean,
you
you're not
gotta
gonna
learn
find
them. You
that.
have to go out your way to be a better team, but that's why I think it's about serving these guys. When we go through a circumstance, in the season or in the off season or anytime, and one of my teammates is going through a tough time in a weird way, that's like my favorite time because now it's an opportunity for me to serve. It's an opportunity for me to be there for them when they need somebody. That way, when I need them and it's fourth down or it's fourth quarter and I need a play, me and him could lock eyes and he'll know I'm calling on you because I believe in you and I was there for you and you're there for me. And it's just a different level. And what I would say to that is trying to keep guys motivated. First of all, I don't want guys out there that aren't motivated. That's first number one. My job is not to motivate you. That's number one. If you're not self-motivated, don't come out here. That's number one. But what I will say is just keeping guys locked in and bought in on a mission just kind of ties back into understanding what is everybody's like personal motivation. You got to know these guys individually, one by one. You know, it's 11 of us out there, 22
Yep.
guys on a unit. And I need to know what everybody's going through. I need to know what the mindset of the team. Honestly, most of the time throughout the week of a game week, from Wednesday to Sunday, right before the game, I'm really just spending time with the guys to figure out what is the vibe of the team. Like, what is the message that this team needs to hear this Sunday to be at our peak performance? What is it? Who needs to be pushed? Who needs to be encouraged? Who needs to, be motivated? I'm learning about our team every week, based off of the circumstance and what's going on. So, I feel like my job is about. I feel like yes, I play football and I make a lot of plays on tackling and stuff, but I genuinely think I get paid for dealing with people.
So the defensive coordinator's role is a little bit different than your role. He's not out in the field, you're out in the field, and you gotta make sure they're locking in on those plays, right? That's what it sounds like.
The D coordinator is the head of the defense. You know, he is the
Yep.
judge, jury, and executioner of what's right and what's wrong. On the field, and in the meeting rooms. He also holds the coaches accountable, which is extremely important. And he holds the leaders accountable. We had a circumstance this past year, and we had played Seattle, who ended up winning the Super Bowl. But we got after Seattle. We didn't allow them to score a touchdown. Defensively, it was probably one of our best games. It probably was our best game of the entire season, and we shut some teams out. But playing Seattle on the road, with Phillip Rivers as our quarterback and not allowing them to score a touchdown was probably our best performance. That being said, we lost, and
Yep.
in the NFL, there's no moral victories because nobody looks back and say, "Oh, well, Seattle won the Super Bowl and you only lost by 1 point. You lost. It doesn't matter." So, and I had a play in that game. It was a fourth down and we were in man coverage, and I was man on a tight end who blocked and then leaked out, and I was on him, but I saw the quarterback kind of scrambling, and I went to get the quarterback. Quarterback just dumps it off, tight end catches it, first down. Not a major play, and again they didn't score. I don't even think they scored after it, but I gave up a first down on the fourth down. And going into the meeting on Monday, because I knew who our DCE was, um, I was nervous, not because I was afraid to get chewed out, because to be honest with you, I respond well to those type of circumstances. I was afraid that he wasn't going to say anything to me. And I knew if he didn't say anything to me, it would hurt our unit, So I was almost relieved when he put my play on the screen in front of everybody. Zaire, what the hell are you doing? You got to do this. You can't make this play. Da, 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 da. And like it relieved me. Like I like for once I was like, bet cool, because him holding me accountable in front of the entire team really empowered me to hold other guys accountable, because
Right.
now you set the standard clearly and out front versus everybody. It doesn't matter if you're the leader of the defense or you barely made the team. Everybody gets held to this same standard. And like, because he did that, it made us a better team. And it allowed me to be a better leader because, players are only empowered by the standard that the coaches set. I will say, your supervisors are only empowered by the standard that the managers and the C level guys set. If the C level managers are not holding the supervisors and those underneath them to a standard, then you're not really empowering those. You're not giving those guys any teeth, because guys will know that there's leeway and there's gray. The rules and the standards have to be black and white in order for true culture and accountability to actually exist.
Yeah, I mean, there can't be any weak links on that defense, right? With 11 guys, you need everybody locked in. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have a weak link. I hate to say that. Like, we all know, even the best defenses in the league had at least one spot where you like, yeah, that guy not a all pro. Like, you like, y'all good, but he not, but I think, the we only, go as far as the slowest wolf, So it's kind of one of those things where when you set that standard, okay, you may not be as talented, you may not be as instinctual, but this is what we need from you. We need you to communicate at a high level. We need you to execute at a high level. If you handle that, we could take care of the rest. We won't put you in a position to where you could fail. All teams have a weak spot, but I think being honest and upfront about those things, in my opinion, also play a huge role in that too.
Yeah. And listen, I know you very well. I know you're a very nice guy, but I know out in the field, you always say you're a big trash talker. Now, I don't,
Yeah.
most of us that watch a lot of NFL don't know what everybody says to each other. We always watch them say stuff to each other. God
Yeah.
knows what they're really saying. But have you ever said anything to anybody that really pissed them off? And what did you
Uh,
say? And what did you say?
and what did I say? I will I will say, I mean, when I'm on the field, I've calmed down over the years. I have. I've calmed now I kinda I gotta be motivated to kind of put you in your place. Like, you know what I mean? You kind of gotta do something or say something for me to really get out of character. Now, before I would just get on the field and start shooting at anybody I seen. But I would say one time, I was, we were playing Cleveland and, it was, Njoku, the tight end, and, we were going
Yep.
back and forth, and we were going back we were really in it, and we was gonna having a good game, and, he had just got burnt. I don't know if you remember, he had this, like, accident with, like, acid or something and, like, burnt his skin, and I
Uh-oh.
said something about that, and he was like, "Yo," and I was like, "You know what?" And, like, it was funny because we was really into I'm talking about we saying all kind of crazy stuff, but then it's like when I said that, he was like, "Come on." And I was like, "You know what? You right. I didn't mean that." And it was like we at that point, we actually became cool, so we actually hugged it out and talked about it after the game. I actually got a lot of respect for him too. That's my guy. We, trained together a couple times too, and Joko's a good guy, so, that was probably one of the funny times that I had.
But when you trash out there, though, that gets your own players worked up when you trash other guys on the other team, right?
I mean,
A
I
little bit.
just feel like every team need an instigator, you know? Like
Yeah.
if you don't have nobody out there like and for me, that's how I grew up playing the game. I grew up playing in Philly, like in Philly,
Yeah.
that's just how we on the field, on the basketball court in school, like trash talk is just genuinely a part of who we are, you know? So like
Yeah.
it ain't personal. It's just how we play. And
Yeah.
I don't go after the soft guys. I go after the best guys, and I go after my matchup. So I really just I'm challenging my matchup, be better, because I don't think you can beat me even at your best. That's really how I feel. So, um, and I feel like a lot of my teammates feed into it. I didn't have some teammates be like, Zaire just never stopped talking, so I just, let them go, and zone me out. But it is what it is. Everybody play the game their own way.
Yep. Hey, let's switch gears for a second. And you're a very charitable guy. I want to talk to you a little bit about Shalice's Angels. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how that started and what you're doing for the kids, scholarship wise, and all that, and how you want to kind of give back?
Yeah, so Shalice's Angels is the name of my nonprofit. Founded in 2019, my second year in the NFL. It's named after my late mother, with respect to my late grandmother, both women who raised me, who passed away 2 months apart from each other when I was 16. So the mission of Shalice's Angels is to help support young women from tough environments and give them experiences that they may not have the opportunity otherwise. At the beginning of Shalice's Angels as a genesis, as a heavy me being a finance grad, had a heavy financial literacy component, an entrepreneurial component, as well as just giving girls different opportunities. We took girls from North Philly to Google headquarters, Meta headquarters, the Sixers, and they had a chance to sit with the C level of these companies and really get to know them. Really cool experiences for everybody involved in this, including myself. As of late, I would say, now in our seventh year, which is crazy.
Wow, it's great.
It's blossomed into a scholarship, named after my late grandmother, to my high school, LaSalle College High School. Every year we pick our recipient. We actually just chose a new young man last night at our board meeting, who's going to receive the scholarship this year, at our scholarship gala this year on March 26th in Philadelphia. So, and as well as we're also evolving, growing into Girls Flag. Girls Flag is actually a huge component of what we do now.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, we host the annual jamboree in Philadelphia,
Mhm.
as well as camps in Indianapolis as well too. We just granted a grant gave a grant to a girls flag organization out of South Jersey, who's currently right now competing in Orlando at the World Championships. I think their first game is on Thursday against a team from Mexico. So,
Wow, that's cool.
yeah, so it's pretty cool. So yeah, Shalice Angels has grown and evolved over the years. It's been really cool to watch and see the young girls grow. I remember for my first program, we had a young girl, who came to us, and she was extremely shy, barely talked. She just loved her animals, and she talked about how she wanted to be a veterinarian one day. She was in 7th grade, and now she just turned 20, and, she's a veterinarian, and
Is
it's
she?
really cool to
That's
see.
awesome.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, she's really cool to see, and, she's like the poster child, for our organization, and we really appreciate her and all the other young women who came through, so
That's great. You have a gala coming up in the spring, so
yes, sir. Yeah, March
that's all.
26th.
That's great. Awesome.
Mhm.
Now you're doing great things. Um, let's talk a little bit about your business background. I mean, I know you're a finance major. I know you like real estate, rental properties. You're into Rita's franchise up there in Indianapolis, right?
Mhm.
When you start thinking about your future, and Z, you and I talk about this a lot, but what is your what does it look like for you post football? Because nobody plays football forever, not even Tom Brady,
Mhm.
right? So you see,
Right.
the end of your career will happen at some point. What do you see yourself? How do you kind of make yourself happy? Because it's so hard to replicate NFL, right? Once you leave the NFL, you could stay in football, you could be an agent, you could be a coach, you could be a GM someday. There's a lot of different directions you could take within football. And then there's a lot of directions you can go to start over again in finance, right?
Right, right.
So, like,
Yeah,
what do you think about, like, what would make you happy post football? Like, when you start thinking about those things, and then what do you tell the young people, right? Because isn't it true, like, the average stay in the NFL is about 3 years? So, like, these
yeah.
young people, like, what are you gonna do after the NFL? I'm sure you get
Um,
asked that question a lot too. For
yeah, I
yourself?
mean yeah, I mean, I still feel spry, I still feel good, I still feel ready. So I think it's hard for me to really kind of gauge, what would make me happy when I'm done. I think I'll know a little bit more as I, get closer to the end of my career. But I would just say, just keep your options open. That's kind of how I've always viewed it. I think even back to my days at Syracuse, one of the reasons why I was on the dean's list, why, academics was so important to me, why I fought to be one of the first, Syracuse football players that was accepted into the business school in almost a decade. Why that was important to me was because I knew if football didn't work out, I wanted another opportunity to still earn and live a good life. And I would say, a lot of the investments and off the field ventures that I do really are just to create even more options. I think as you continue to grow and build your career, to me, I just always felt like it was extremely important to just diversify who I am. I don't really allow one thing to really define me. I wouldn't, when I walk into a room, I don't want to be known as just a football player. I don't want to be known as just a podcaster. I don't want to be known as, just anything. I like to, just have multiple hats and be a lot of different versions of myself. And, I think the way I came into the league in the 7th round, with not a lot of money pre NIL, it taught me how to be creative. It taught me how to earn and how to make smart investments and how to live and grow through those type of things, which I think is extremely important once our playing days are over. So I think just the financial journey that I've had, I think helps play a role in the negotiations that I'm having to this day.
Yep. And what do you tell the young people? Because they must ask you, right? Because now that you're
Oh yeah.
considered, a vet, right, and you're the leader of the defense, the young guys probably need your help, right? So some of these people probably come from backgrounds where they didn't have parents that could help them, teach them anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably say information is always your friend. Everything that I've ever invested in, or new industry that I invested in, it's like I almost studied and researched it for 2 years before I ever even did it. And that goes with asking people about their experiences, learning about how they did it, guys with from first rounders who invested and were successful to guys who were late and lowly paid guys who invested and were successful, talking about their journey, learning from their mistakes, and really just, find about the market. I will go to the NFL held a business academy that they hosted every year at the University of Michigan. Went there and learned a lot about nonprofits, about entrepreneurship, about franchising. And that was extremely impactful for me. Just a bunch of different opportunities that you get, continue to read books and continue to push yourself to just gain more information. I just feel like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can learn from other people's mistakes. We've been in this league long enough that there's a player from a similar background with a similar family structure as you who made similar amount of money and he did X, Y, and Z and ended up with that. And, you can either do the same thing he did or learn from his path and try to make it your own. So that's pretty much what I've tried to do the best. So, when I talk to these guys, I'm a guy who's lived multiple lives in this NFL, from being a late draft pick special teamer to being one of the highest paid linebackers in the league and the leader of the team. I kind of can understand both sides of the spectrum. So I'm able to kind of speak freely about, just the deals that I make and the things that I do.
Great. So your success in the NFL has put you on kind of some interesting media journey, right? You're doing a lot of podcasting. You've been a guest on a lot of podcasters. You have your own podcast. What have you learned from kind of that part of the business? Because that's very different than playing the NFL. I mean, that's media. I know you've gotten some controversy.
Yeah,
What have you
controversy
learned
comes
from
with it
what have
though.
you learned? What have you learned from all that?
Controversy comes with it. You can't be scared of controversy. Can't if you want to play in the mud, can't get scared to get dirty. So that's part of that. Um, what I would say is, I just think it's extremely important at this day and age. I think it's extremely important for current pro players to have their own platform, to not only show their own personality, but to market themselves as well as speak on their situations from their own point of view. I think for so long, scouts, GMs, and guys behind the curtain had a chance to control narratives and really spin different stories to make it seem like, okay, this guy isn't a good teammate or this guy isn't a man in the community or this guy, like now social media age and now onto streaming as well as podcasting. I think it's just a perfect opportunity for guys to show your personality, build your own community online, as well as in your own city, and just really get a chance to show what you're about and what you're actually interested in.
And you've enjoyed it too.
I've had a good time. Yeah,
Good.
look, it comes with, I can't say I haven't had some lows. I've had some, but most of those times I walk right into it intentionally. But I would just say, like I said, when you play in mud, you gotta expect to get dirty. That's just a part of it.
All right. So are you going to stop playing the mud or are you going to keep playing the mud?
Nah, I love getting dirty.
Great. This has been great. So getting to the light part of the conversation, what do you like to drink? And is bourbon on the menu? What's your favorite bourbon? What's your favorite drinks?
It's crazy. So I'm about to turn 30 this year, and me and all my boys, we about to be in our 30s now. We really made the decision that we leave. So I was really drinking tequila for like the last like 5 years, almost exclusively. And I love tequila, but I do feel like it's time for me to make my way over to dark brown liquor. Like I do feel that way.
Yeah.
So I'm actually looking for a good brown liquor. Right now, I've been kind of leaning rum to I've had some good rum nights and then cognac, but I'm trying to leave cognac alone. But I would love some
Try
good
bourbon.
bourbon. I would love some
All
good
right.
bourbons. I would love some good a
So
whiskey
as
sour.
for being a guest on our show, you're going to get a bottle of bourbon engraved
I
with the
need that.
podcast. So
Oh, I
you're going to
need
be
that.
you're going to be receiving that. So there's a lot of good ones. You
Yeah,
can go to
send two.
Kentucky. Kentucky's pretty close to you. You can go
Oh,
to
I just I
Louisville.
just I just got confirmed I'm going to the Kentucky Derby this year.
So while you're there, you gotta go on the bourbon trail. So there's a lot of bourbons to
All
test
right.
out. So
I gotta tell my wife.
awesome. Hey Z, thank you very much for taking the time. I know you're busy training and looking out for next year. Best of luck in the next this season, and I really appreciate your time. And this has been a lot of fun.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you having me on.